What it is, y'all, it's your old boy Pilkin. We need to talk about chapter 3 and 4 compared to episode 3 of Wistoria. Now, first things first, I will be completely honest with you guys. I was expecting this to be a little bit of a, dare I say, closer adaptation, because this is a two-chapter event. You know, there's a lot to cover here. But immediately right out of the gate, what we get in the episode some background between Will and Elfie, and even Werkner is there. But this never happens in the manga. The manga, we literally just kick off with Will's day. That's straight up. And it's like 5 minutes into the episode before we even get this, which is really interesting. Now, that isn't to say that's good or bad per se, just an interesting thing I recognize there. And for the early part of the season, or early part of the series, I should say, it was a little bit of additional stuff. I think it was kind of redundant. I think we kind of already knew most of what we learned there, but all they're trying to do in the anime is to build up the relationship between Will and Elfie. So, I don't know. Was it successful? Was it better? It was a thing. I don't know. I could go either way with this. Now, with the manga, something really interesting happens here. So this really starts off, kind of picks up where Will is doing the paper delivery route, and he meets the dwarf that we meet later on in the next episode. And in the anime, he trips and all the papers go up to the air, and he quickly gathers them all up. Here, they just kind of fall on the ground. So in the manga, they really play up this great disparity between Will, the crazy badass superhero, and Will, just this ordinary everyday guy. One thing I do like about the manga is they really do a great job of kind of playing Will down when he needs to be played down. I get for the anime what they wanted was they wanted Will to basically be a superhero. They wanted him to be like the greatest swordsman, the greatest this, the greatest that. He is the sword to these wands that are just being waved in his face. But if I'm honest, I really like what they did with the manga here. He's very meek. He's not weak. He's meek. He's humble. And he doesn't go out of his way to showcase his talents unless it's absolutely necessary. Now, that may disprove a little fan theory I have, but we'll see as the series goes on. I'll talk more about that once I've finished the chapters of the manga that are out. But in the anime, we get this, and I love the fact they kind of like straight up take in the anime, she's straight up animated. She like pops out in 3 dimensions, and she's just, for all intents and purposes, there. Very Harry Potter-esque. And they're very much taking a lot of cues from Harry Potter in this one. And I'm cool with that, frankly. I love those books, and I love this. I think this is a great companion piece to a lot of the other magical stories that we've had out there for years and years and years and years. So we meet Rosti for the first time, Will's roommate, who we finds out creates those magical items, and really everything here is almost identical to how it goes down in the anime. Nothing really much to talk about, but it does introduce Rosti, which in episode 8 is a whole thing. So I did appreciate that. And I love that Rosti is like both roommate and mom. Like, oh, you're leaving, not without a snack. Like you put some meat on you, boy. And sends him out. I love that. Now, we start to get a breakdown here in how this world works. And in the episode, it's really no different. He talks about, in fact, each one of these is done shot for shot as a still frame in the anime, and I love that. I love the attention to detail with this studio is completely insane. I absolutely adore everything that they're able to do here. And one thing that I think the anime did do a little bit better, here you kind of see Will is looking down on everyone that's out there fighting the monsters. In the anime, this room is full of people taking on the mobs. Like, full of people taking on the mobs. So, if anything, this panel right here is actually a little bit better executed in the anime. And I've said before, I really feel like this manga does lend itself to the anime quite a bit. I think it's something that's very, very well done. And we do see Sion once again, and obviously he's brooding after his last interaction with Will. And this whole scene goes on for quite a bit of time. This is not a short thing in the anime. It takes several minutes for him to basically go over the episode, which is funny that we have so much added content when it's a 2-chapter episode and they keep throwing all this stuff in there. Just very interesting to me. And it'll make a little bit more sense later on down the road. But of course, just like it happens in the anime, Will runs into a girl. By the way, can I mention how crazy it is that these are just like penguins with giant ravenous? Have you ever looked at what a penguin's... Google what the inside of a penguin's mouth looks like. That's pretty much like spot on. Like, these are just 10-foot tall penguins. They kind of already do have tooth-like appendages in their beaks. They just don't... Their beaks aren't full of teeth. I love how derpy this one looks. Look at this one. It's like... That one's... It's... You ever seen the picture of Cerberus where it's like serious, dumb? That's like great. It's like serious. I mean, look at that derpy expression. This one got the... I can't make that joke. Oh, don't make that joke. I'll just say this one got the vaccines. So, no, I don't believe that garbage. But nevertheless, it's a funny joke. It's a joke. Calm down. For God. Anyway, moving on. So obviously he gets cleaved in two, and or they get cleaved in two, all of them. And this really all just kind of plays exactly like it does in the episode. Really, there's just almost no difference here, with one huge exception. As Iris introduces herself, and she has that back and forth with Will, and they go over thing, she mentions here in a minute that she met Elfie. Now, that's really, really interesting. I'm trying to get to the panel where she does. It's actually, I think, right here. She's upperclassman, like I said. Save my life, not be able to do talent. Yeah. So she's talking to him right here. She introduces herself. They kind of go a little bit more over how the world works. Here it is. I've actually met Lady Elfie. So in the anime, this cuts away to like this huge moment where she kind of has like this background. Elfie shows up at the dungeon. In hindsight, a moment that makes literally zero sense, but kind of is a dead giveaway as to what's going on with her. And I'll be honest with you guys. The first time I watched the episode, I didn't get that. I just took it like, okay, the Magia come down into the dungeons when they need items or such. But then why would she implore the use of all these other people? It was the anime trying to basically tell you that old girl's full of it. Old girl's a problem. And if I'm totally honest with you guys, I did not catch that. Maybe I'm just thick, but the end of the episode really kind of is like that payoff moment. Now, in the manga, none of that ever happens. She mentions it, and that's that. And you find out later, she's not wrong here. Technically, she did not lie to Will here. In the anime, she lied. She told a straight up lie. Completely fabricated story. It took up like 5 minutes of screen time. Or well, probably not 5, like 3. But still, it took up significant screen time. So, one big difference. And there was another moment here right about in this same area. In fact, I think it was right here. They break away again and they go to the school and they spend another few minutes just talking about how the world works. And everyone's in class with Werkner and he's explaining how, if you want to show your true chops as a mage, you make a magic. And that Elfie made 12. That's where we get the big reveal that it made 12. So far in the manga, then none of that has happened. Now, they may cover that later, or maybe in a companion piece to the manga. But so far in the manga, that information has not come to pass. So there's a lot that the anime is kind of given us as clues as to what's going on that the manga never does. Now, I will say, in contrast, those pieces of the anime do kind of mess up the pacing a little bit. So, as much as we're getting a little bit more details, I think it's at the cost of some of the pacing of the episode, because we gotta like flash back and forth and all of these. Somehow we have flash sideways to the class or something. I don't know. Talking about all this stuff rather than just getting the meat and potatoes of the episode. And I get it. A lot of this exposition is stuff that we missed or stuff that was necessary for later on. Stuff we learn in the manga little by little that they kind of have to force feed to the audience. It is what it is. I won't say it's necessarily good or bad. I'll just say good exposition, but at the cost of pacing. I don't know how I feel about that. But here in the manga, basically, this is where they find that the giant ice monster is there. The what do they call it? The something rather Rex. Anyway, everything from this point on pretty much goes exactly how you think it would. Now, the funny part is, all of this happens still in Chapter 3. Everything from Chapter 4 onward is pretty much the end of the episode. It's like the last maybe 10 minutes or so of this episode. Maybe less than, maybe like 7 minutes or something like that. So I'd say a good 60% of the episode is Chapter 3 and the additional stuff. And Chapter 4 is like the last 40% of the episode, which is, I mean, it's not a huge disparity, but it's just interesting to me. You think it'd be 50-50, and it's not. And they almost recreate this scene perfectly. Now, if you're reading the manga week by week, this would pretty much be it. You get that, and you'd be like, okay, what's going to happen here? But we already know Will is completely bonkers. So, yeah. It's just called a Frost Rex. That's probably quite predictable. So, end of Chapter 3, getting into Chapter 4, we get basically a re-slide of all these things. Bam, it's a Frost Rex, and he's like, stay here, and then that's when he just goes bonkers. Now, I want you to kind of compare the episode to the manga again with me for a moment, because in the episode, there's a huge drawn-out battle, and this is one of the places where I say the anime does a phenomenal job, because we've got basically one page, not even a page. I'd say right here, we'd start right here. One page, you can see him shooting the little laser thing. It's not little, it's massive. Will, like, popping off. Goes up in the air. This is page 2, page 3, page 4, and pretty much it's subdued by page 5. All of this, like, they spend about probably 45 seconds to an entire minute animating out each one of these pages, and you can almost see every single one of these shot for shot. It's pretty nuts. Like, I adore the way they have done this. It is absolutely fantastic. And this is one of the places where this studio really, really excels. Like, they get the action sequences in this series spot on. Absolutely spot. When we start talking about Danmachi Season 5, when that comes out, I've been very, very critical of JC Staff and their action sequences over the past few years. Since Season 2, essentially, when we've been doing these reviews. And I will say that the animation studio here far exceeds anything that they are capable of. Like, they are, this is like, watching their exposition, watching all that, meh. However, the action sequences is like a mastercraft in how you make an episode. I have been critical of one, maybe two scenes in the entire series, and some of those may have actually even come down to the medium. But there was one situation, and we'll probably talk about anime to manga when that happens in episode 7. But so far, so good. Absolutely loving it. It's the one way that I think the anime 100% takes the manga and takes it to the next level. And I absolutely am 100% here for it. And even talks about, like, oh, it's weak to bombs. Boom. Now, the funny part is, all of that lead up, and these things happen in rapid succession. The flame goes off. We see it buzz around. Boom. And all of these next few pages, so I'd say 1, 2, 3, 2.5 pages, takes place in like a second. And that's where I think this studio does a just phenomenal job of knowing how to place their action shots. this series is in such good hands, and I really, 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 for the love of everything, kind of wish Danmachi was here too. Man. If you, for those that don't know, The Unanointed, because every video is somebody's first video, the reason I harp on about Danmachi so much is because Omori wrote this story and writes the light novels for Danmachi. It's just two different studios that make the anime, and in this situation, a new manga artist that actually is drawing the manga for us here. So, but Omori is the master craftsman of this world and of these stories, and so comparing the two is just natural, I think, and it's really, really, really hard to separate them, especially considering for the first season at least, he has thrown a lot of Easter eggs from that prior series at us. So far, so good. And then we get our first glimpse where it's like, oh, what are old girls in Because we get this shot, right? We even get that in the anime. And it's like, oh, what are her intentions? What is going on here? And pretty much that's that. Like, end of chapter, and same, we get the end credits of the anime. Now, this whole scene is literally shot for shot in the anime, and it is done so well. She walks into the Magia. We have the one dude that's missing. We don't know his name. And kind of, they're heavily insinuating that Will has a place there, but we'll see. Obviously she addresses each one by one. This is exactly how it goes down in the anime. It's so well executed. The tension between these characters is well done. You can see, like, the way he's drawn, you can just see how bored he is. He's just done with this whole situation. And she's done with his crap. And in the anime, they animate their interaction so well. So really no major criticisms here. I'll just say shot for shot, absolutely perfectly executed. And there's just no downside to this whatsoever. So while I do say that JC staff does their exposition well, but they don't do their action sequences well, this series, or this studio, does the action phenomenally and does their exposition equally as well. So what's it going to take to get Danmachi over here? Oh, man, give us a Sword Oratoria anime from the... You know, it pains me. It's so hard not to compare the two. I'm glad we have each anime, but it's... I mean, just... They do such a good job with the adaptation. Even if they add a few things, even if the pacing is a little bit off... You know, like, the episode's like a solid 8, maybe low 9 out of 10. And, you know, really, you could completely forgive the pacing issues with, you know, for the extra bits of exposition that we get. There you guys go. That's my review. I love it. The manga's fantastic. I've got to finish up the manga and do a little bit more research on it before I really talk about that fan theory I've got. But I'll tease that every episode until then. Make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already. And we'll be back with more coming real soon.